Welcome to The Bluegrass Story, the podcast that takes you on a captivating journey behind the mic with the most talented and influential artists in the world of bluegrass music. In each episode, we dive deep into the lives and careers of bluegrass musicians, exploring the stories that shaped their artistry and the passion that fuels their love for this timeless genre. Now, here's your host, Don Mack.
Today on The Bluegrass Story, we're sitting down with an artist whose voice feels like it was stitched straight from the hills of home. Caroline Owens is not only a gifted vocalist and musician, she's a storyteller who brings heart, honesty, and pure bluegrass soul to everything she touches. Her new single, Telluride, is already turning heads with a cinematic feel and emotional pull. And we're diving into the inspiration, the journey, and the artistry behind it. So settle in, friends. You're about to hear one of the most authentic rising talents in bluegrass today. Here is my conversation with the wonderful Caroline Owens. Well, hello, Caroline, and welcome to the Bluegrass Story. It is such a pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm busy as a bee, but that's how you get honey, so can't complain.
You know, that is so true. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I had a great Thanksgiving. I spent a lot of time at home, which I don't get to do, so I was really thankful. How about you?
Yeah, it was great. It went by way too fast. Like we're in December now, but I'm telling you, time does not slow down. So I am excited to have you on because I follow you on social and I see how busy you are. So to have any time to do an interview, I was just blown away when you said, yes, let's do this. You know, I was like, how is she going to make the time? But I'm grateful that you did.
Well, of course. Thanks for asking me. I always can make time for nice folks like you, so thank
Oh,
you.
you're so sweet. Well, I've got to start off by asking you, you know, every artist has that mountain moment that is a point where they realize music is what they were meant to do. And what was that moment for you?
Well, I always loved music. I grew up in church. My grandpa was a preacher, so I was always around music constantly. And in our house, we had a grand piano, so my parents would always encourage me to pick on it a little bit, but they didn't have to encourage me much because it was always a constant thing that I was pursuing, even at a young age. And so I kind of knew from the very beginning that's what I wanted to do. But I don't think it really occurred to me that I would get to do it until I graduated high school and things started falling into place. I don't think that it ever occurred to me until I really signed my first record deal. It was like, oh, okay, now we're moving.
Yeah, this is real. Like, you know, that not everybody gets to sign a record deal. So if you do, you kind of feel in a way like you've arrived, so to speak. But yet there's still so much hard work ahead to keep climbing, you know? And speaking of record deals, you're signed to Billy Blue Records, which to me is just an awesome label. I love what those folks over there are doing with their artists and just how they represent the label. I mean, it has such deep roots to the genre. So, what feels most special about being part of their musical family?
Well, it really is what you just said. It's a family. And I know that sounds cliche, but everything is just everyone's included. And I've always felt included on every decision regarding my music. And, it's a large label. And so many people don't get that with large labels. And I've
Right.
had that one-on-one honesty, open conversation with everybody. It's been fantastic. I was on a small label before I joined Billy Blue. I was on an independent label. They were my first record label. And it was great working with them as well. But the transition from an independent label to Billy Blue, which has so many folks working for them, I believe over 67 employees at this point.
Wow.
There's so many hands there, but I've never felt small. And
Right.
that's been really important to me. And it really does feel like family. I'm always included on my decisions about my music, which sounds simple, but it's really a big deal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like having started out on an independent label may have been like the best case scenario because it kind of primed you for what was to come, even if you didn't know what was to come, right? But how was that transition for you, you know, moving from an independent, smaller label to Billy Blue?
Yeah. Well, my first label was great. They're called Skyline Records. I encourage everyone to check them out. They were great to me. They placed me on Sirius XM And had it not been for them taking a chance on me, I'm not sure that Billy Blue would have turned their heads as fast as they did. But Skyline was the one who initially believed in me. And everybody needs that. Of course, my parents
Right.
believed first, but as far as industry executives, they were the first. The transition was very smooth, though. I learned to hang on tight and just stand my ground, which I really didn't have to because everyone at Billy Blue already believed in me. But it was a smooth transition, and I'm grateful.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it feels like your whole career has just kind of exploded. Like you went from being an independent artist on an independent label, and it's like everywhere you turn, um, you are kind of like the up and coming thing in bluegrass. I mean, I think you're a household word at this point that people are going, that Caroline Owens. I mean, the first time I heard you sing, I was blown away. And I knew even before you got to Billy, I said, she is going places. Um, and just how fast you have climbed the ladder, so to speak, it's amazing. And and bluegrass is one of those genres that's rooted in tradition. I mean, that's kind of the foundation of it all. And you're helping shape its future, I feel like. And so how do you balance honoring the tradition while carving out your own artistic identity in this genre?
Well, first of all, thank you for being so sweet. That really gave me goosebumps, everything you were saying. It's easy to kind of forget all the things that you've been lucky to do. So thank you for saying that. But tradition, I love tradition. I'm really big on that. I actually had not heard of bluegrass. I guess I'd lived under a musical rock. I had not heard of it until I was in my early teens because, we were in the church and you know how it is when you're in that area. That's kind of what we're connected to. And so my love for tradition came from Alison Krauss. That's who
Wow.
this into this genre. And she was doing so much traditional stuff in the very beginning stages. And that's what hooked me to the genre to begin with. So I had a deep appreciation for tradition because without the tradition, how do you have a tree without roots? And this is roots
Right.
music. So I love tradition. We actually incorporate a lot of traditional stuff in our set, even down to covers from country artists like Patsy Cline. We do a cover of Crazy with mandolin instrumentation and just a vocal. So there's a lot of stuff that we bring in, and we'll do old standards like Bill Monroe's Cry, Cry, Darling, we'll pull out of the hat sometimes. And so I love balancing that because it's really important to keep it. How do you have roots music without the root?
Well, I know, and I love the fact that you're a younger artist because you're introducing that traditional sound that to a generation of music lovers that are young, that are coming into bluegrass in droves because of artists like you who are, not afraid to pull out the Bill Monroe in a set and play it, and the crowd just goes crazy, but yet you're infusing your own sound, your own originality, and it's amazing to me how bluegrass is ever changing and it's always evolving. And I remember it wasn't just a few short years ago when I was kind of starting to get concerned. Like I was like, I hope it's not dying off. And then all of a sudden, this explosion in the genre just happened. We had all these new artists coming in. And next thing you know, all these young people are like wanting to learn how to play bluegrass instruments. And really it just took hold, and I'm so thankful because the younger generation is the future of bluegrass. um so it's a wonderful thing what you're doing to make a difference, because I think it's helped pull in a whole different genre of people that otherwise wouldn't have ever given bluegrass a look.
Well, thank you. I'm just grateful to get to do this in the first place, to have any ability to do it at all. And so to
Yeah.
have, the ability to have stuff on the radio or on this or that, it's just wonderful. So and to get to bring other people to the genre, that's such a special thing when you're kind of in a subgenre, so to speak. And so you're basically relying on the people to boost that. And I think about people like Billy Strings and Molly Tuttle and Billy. I've seen several clips of him playing to these massive arenas, and he's doing Doc Watson, and they're eating it up and they're loving it.
They
And
are.
we love Doc, but he's introducing Doc to so many people who, unfortunately, probably didn't know Doc before they came in there at 7 o'clock.
That's right. That's
And
right. And I love it because it's not only, introducing them to bluegrass and the more contemporary side of bluegrass, but they're learning all about the rich history of bluegrass, which is the foundational roots that are never going to die, right? So it's just awesome to see that those legends of bluegrass are continuing to live on through artists like yourself, Billy Strings, and others that are not afraid to say, "Hey, let's do it," because it's part, and you honor that, which I know the forefathers of bluegrass would be so proud to see this happening. And so I've got to ask you, because by now you've had quite a few singles on the radio. What was it like the first time you heard your song on the radio?
Oh my gosh, I remember where I was. I was on Skyline at the time, and Heartbreak Train, which was a song that I had written, had, bursted through Sirius XM. And I was sitting, of all places, in the McDonald's drive-thru getting ready to get a really bad for you greasy cheeseburger. And I was getting ready to place my order. There's a video of it somewhere. And I was in mid-sentence. And I thought, that girl sounds really familiar.
Oh,
And
wow.
a little pitchy maybe. And so, I turned her up and it was me. And I remember just almost breaking down right there in the drive-thru. Because how do you, what's the word? How do you feel, when you think of all the hard work that you've put into it, all these things flash in front of your face, from the first time you sang to the last time you sang. How do you put that into words? Well, you don't. You cry. And
Right.
that's all you can do. And it was such a big deal to me. My mom was in the car with me and she got to see it and experience it.
Oh, wow.
Stuff like that just doesn't get old. And it went on to be the number one most played song on Sirius XM for about a week. And that was crazy because it was my debut and we expected nothing like that, to even get it played once is great. But it was surreal. That's the only way to sum it up.
Well, sometimes what I've learned in my own personal life is when you have no expectations at all of something that you put out there and you just do it, you take that risk and you don't know how it's going to go. And I think being human, we always have the worst case scenarios that play in our minds. Like, I don't know why I even did this. And all of a sudden something like that happens and you go, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I took the risk. Right. What a sweet moment for you and your mom to be able to share together like that. And, I think every artist aspires to be heard on the radio. I mean, that's kind of part of one of the many goals to be a music artist, but to have it actually happen. And
Yeah.
when you didn't even expect it, you're just, in the drive-through ordering dinner and, just going to go on about your day. And there it is. And that had to be so surreal. And, but I can tell you that single, when I heard it the first time, I knew then. I said, well, she's got a long career ahead because this single right here is just popping off. And then over, the coming weeks after that, it was like everywhere you turned, it was number one here and it was just racing up the charts. And I was like, yep, just as I thought. Well, I've got to talk about your latest single, Telluride, because I love it. I mean, I love everything you put out, but this is like my favorite so far. I don't know what it is about that song. I don't know if it's your singing, if it's the music, if it's the awesome, uh, video. I don't know. But this song is just like next level. It's like, here's Caroline Owens. Now here is Caroline Owens. It's like up a whole nother level notch, in my opinion. And it's got such a cinematic feel. So what was the first image or emotion that came to mind when you knew this was going to be your next release?
Mm. Well, I was actually in a pinch. We were going in to cut the first 5 songs of my record, which will be coming out next year, the beginning of next year.
Awesome.
And I'm so particular, which is usually what takes things a little bit longer for me because I want things to be,
Mhm.
a bit of a perfectionist. And we had all the songs, or so we thought. And I was like, no, we don't. We're missing. And so I said, I've got to have it. And so I was looking through my email and I thought, let me just see if there's something that I've missed because I get sent songs by the dozens. And there it was. And I thought, what is this? And so I clicked it and it was a work tape of Bill White and Andrea Pearson who wrote the tune and Andrea was singing it. And I was like, now that's special. And so I sent it to everybody on the team and everyone said, yep, it's Telluride. That's it. And then it ended up, of course, being a second single from the album. So when you know, you know.
Yeah, I can relate to being the whole perfectionist thing. And it's kind of like putting together a playlist for a show. It's like there's an order to that. It's, people that listen to the radio, they just, they hear the song after song and they say, oh, this sounds so good, and everything's grooving, but there is a science to that. And I imagine it's very similar when you're picking songs for an album and you just know like when this is it, like I've got
Yeah.
everything I need, or when it's still missing that one thing. And I'm really glad that you said, hey, we're not there yet, and you took a chance because that song is amazing. It is just it's so hard drive. I love hard driving bluegrass. I love it. I love, the high intensity and just fast. Love it. And so it's a great song.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it.
Oh yeah. So when listeners hear tell you ride, what layer of the song do you hope hits them first? The story, the melody, the sense of escape, or something else?
Well, I love the sense of escape because I think that's why so many people, myself included, listen to music throughout the day, is because if you're not where you want to be right then, you can put yourself there. And that's the whole
Yeah.
point of Telluride is the lady in the song is hitching a ride to Telluride because she's not where she needs to be. That's the first line of the second verse. Sometimes where you're at just ain't where you need to be.
I know.
And
I know.
so
And
it's definitely right.
you don't always know that's, you're not where you need to be until it finally just hits you out of the clear blue one day and you go, I've got to get on out of here.
Exactly. You gotta
Ye-
get your ride to Telluride and get away.
That's right. That's right. Now, if Telluride were the opening scene of a film, what would we see
Oh.
in the mind of Caroline Owens? What would you want it to be?
Well, I picture like this dusty back road mountain scene, actually very much like the cover art that was designed. It looks very much like that. And I just picture a girl who's just down on her luck and she's trying to hitch a ride to nowhere. And she's got her thumb out the window or on the side of the road and she's saying, anybody take me anywhere but here. So I kind of see this kind of vintage mountain scene of someone pulling up in like this 70s Corvette, and saying, all right, I'll take you somewhere, darling. Where do you want to go? And I just see that person needing to get away. It's like we just talked about. The song itself really is simple when you think about it. Everyone's
Yeah.
wanting to ride the Telluride in some way. And
Right.
if that song was slowed down, you'd probably be very sad thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
The heart trying to get away. So I guess my opening scene would be somebody trying to get free,
Yeah.
standing on the side of the road, help me please.
Yeah. And that can have many different meanings in terms of what someone may be going through. That's why I think the song is so powerful in that regard because it can speak to people in a lot of different ways. It's not one dimensional, in other words. It serves a purpose on many levels and I think that's why it resonates with so many people as well. Um, well, I've gotta move from this to talk about your voice because again, when I heard you sing the first time, I was like, she has the voice of an angel. It's like, is she Allison? Is she Dolly? Is she just like a common? I mean, is she her? I mean, it's like your own creation, but your voice is amazing and it's tender but powerful. And the things you're able to do with your voice is just, that's a gift, Caroline.
Thank you.
All the vocal training in the world sometimes can't hit that. And when you step into the studio, what's your intention behind delivering a vocal that connects so deeply to listeners?
Well, I always try to do what's best for the song. Now, I don't always accomplish that because, like anybody, sometimes yourself can get in the way and you want to do things that you want to do. But it's about what the song needs. So my
Mhm.
is to go in there and say, hey, how can I make somebody feel? If I can make them feel, that's my first intention.
Yeah. And I think that's key because it's interesting how like the listener, a song, I mean, music is such a universal language anyway. So and I think that's why so many people can identify with music above anything else because of how the words of a song speak to someone, how the melody, how the tune, if it's a slow song and you're having a really sad day, it appeals to that. If you need a happy song, you've got it. I mean, So there's no end in sight to meeting the mood, so to speak, and so I think that's the one thing that listeners can always tell if something is authentic or not when it is conveyed and it makes them feel. Have you ever, in any of the songs that you've ever written or done, performed, I should say, have you ever felt the feelings that maybe listeners would catch, if they were listening to your music?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can see a picture every time I sing a song, whether I
Hmm.
it or not. That's actually what helps me not forget words. As I see the picture, I don't forget words. Well, now watch me do that the next time we play. But knock on wood, I haven't had much trouble with that. But I feel everything that I sing, I feel so much so to the point that if I'm coming up on a tune that's really dark or sad, I almost have to remove myself from it to get through it because I feel
Hmm.
a burden weighing on my shoulders.
Oh yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
what the listener feels, and that's why I'm so cautious, or particular rather, of what I pick because I know the weight of what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, I love how present you are with your music, and you're not only thinking about what you like to produce, but how it's going to impact the listener.
Yeah.
And I think, that is with anything, but music particularly. I think this is why people have their favorite artist, and they are really drawn to certain types of music and so forth because it resonates. And not every genre resonates, of course, and not every artist is everyone's cup of tea, but at the same time, I think that is very important when you're taking the listeners into account because after all, you're making the music for the listeners and you want the listeners to listen, right? So it's such a strategy, and it's so heartfelt. A lot has to go into that. Over the years, has there been a song, bluegrass, gospel, or otherwise, that changed the way you think about music and influenced your path? I know you mentioned Alison Krauss, in the bluegrass genre, but has there been any other artist or music that really just kind of, guided you along the way?
Yeah. Well, Dolly, I grew up listening to Dolly, which is probably what everybody, knows about me. And, I think a lot of folks, or I know a lot of folks, think that maybe you want to be these people, or, but really their influence is just so direct to you. You
Hmm.
grow up listening to people, you can't help but almost, embed what they do into you. You're not them, but you want to be like them. And not that you
Right.
want to sound like them, but you want to be the charismatic parts of them, the goodness, the everything about them. So I would say that she embodies every part of that in her. And that's why so many people are drawn to her, whether they know every song she's ever done. I might be guilty of that. Or maybe they don't, but they're just drawn to the spirit of authenticity and true greatness. She's a national
Yeah.
treasure, in my opinion.
He
So
is.
I think that that is what really shaped who I am, is every part of my heroes. We're all puzzle pieces of somebody else at some point. We're
That's
all
right.
just a piece of somebody. I'm a piece of my mom because of the way that she raised me. I'm a piece of my dad because of the way that he raised me, and we're all just a portion of someone else. And so she was a big influence to me because I could draw from her wisdom, really, and her integrity.
Yeah, and she really is authentic. I mean, she's never changed in all the years that she has been in the spotlight. You could pull a interview of Dolly from back 40 years ago, and she is the same persona. She's the same personality and the same authenticity today as she was back then. And I don't think there's any better role model in a world where we need all the good role models we can get. Dolly is the cream of the crop. She has set the bar so high for others to aspire to. And so to be anyone's influence in any kind of way is such a positive thing. And I'm glad that she is, someone that you have looked up to and looked to. And I'm going to put this out to the universe right now, Caroline, but I really hope that in the future there will be a duet with the two of you
So would that be
because I've often thought, I think that would be such a gift for listeners in particular to be able to for you and Dolly to collaborate on a song, to get both your voices on the same song would be outstanding. So I put it out there. We'll see what happens.
I'll
From
take
my
it.
lips to God's ears. So we'll see.
Thank you.
So, what part of the songwriting and recording process makes you feel the most creatively alive?
Oh, I love it when a plan comes together. I'm that way with anything. I love it when plans are made, the puzzle pieces fit together. So I love it when I'm in a writing session and I have an idea, whether the song be for me or for anyone. I love it when what's in my head can hit the paper. That's when I feel
Mm-hmm.
creative, when I'm in a room of like-minded individuals, not necessarily people who are going to agree with me on everything because I'm not always correct, but people who see the vision. I love when the plan comes together and what everyone is thinking is the same and it's shown up on paper and then it's put to music. I love it. There's just something about it, to have the creativeness to be able to do that, I'm really grateful for. I understand that it really is a blessing. I don't take it for granted that I get to go into writing rooms and just say, "Hey, I've had this in my head. Let's put it here on this
Yeah.
paper." So I love that part of it. When a plan comes together, you made my day.
And I think that is it's amazing when you can see kind of something that you were thinking about come to fruition. You put it on paper, but then you bring it to life. And that just gives it a whole life of its own at that point. But to be able to see it, in reality from
Yeah.
a dream or an idea that you had initially, that's, I think that's one of the best things you could have happen. Now we touched on this a little bit earlier, and you've already built a meaningful presence in the industry. And what's something that fans may not know about Caroline Owens, and about your journey that shaped who you are today?
Well, I'm laughing because I'm such a private person. So anytime someone finds out something about me I thought they didn't know, it's never bad. But anything I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should have stayed home. So,
Oh,
but I really, that's a good question. I think that I would like for people to know that although I love my job and I love music and I'm so grateful for it, there's so many other things that make up me, and I've forgotten that myself many times. Hey, you can put it away for a little while, come back to it. So I think I'd like for people to know that I enjoy other things. I love people. I love going out with folks and having dinner and chatting and making meaningful relationships. I love fishing by myself on the side of a riverbank. Too many people absolutely kills me. So I think I'm a little ambiverted. Maybe people should know that too, that I can go in between being social and not. But I really love the simple things in life. Music or the business. Music is not complicated. The business is very, for lack of a better word, cutthroat. And that's not me. And so
mhm.
sometimes when I'm able to step away from that, I would love for folks to know that I do that. I step away sometimes and I go and I fish or I read or I go out to dinner with friends because I love it. I love the simple things in life. And if you're not careful, you'll miss them. So that would be what I would like for people to know, that I'm actually maybe a little more simple than I seem.
I love the fact that, you're getting all this recognition and notoriety for your talent and your gifts and music. And I love the fact that you remain grounded and you're intentional about that, because a lot of artists, as they get bigger and they continue to grow, they lose that side because they're being pulled in so many directions, because as you mentioned, the industry can be a beast. And so they would clamor to be able to have a quiet evening at home or fishing on a bank, by themselves, and just taking time away from all the noise, so to speak. And I'm glad that you're able to do that, because a lot of artists can't. And never lose that part of you, because I think when artists, it's such a sacrificing industry. You have to give so much of yourself when you're on the road and you're touring and you're performing. And and the bluegrass genre is the friendliest genre around. I mean, it's the only genre where you have a bluegrass festival and the artists are in the campground jamming after they performed a 2-hour show, right? So it's it's very people oriented, very family friendly and out there. And it's a lot, it's very demanding, you know, in a lot of ways. And so to be able to break away from that and just be you apart from what you do professionally is a great thing, you know. So as you look ahead to the next season of your music, what are you most excited to explore? And new sounds, collaboration stories, or something unexpected? What are you looking to do?
Well, I think people are really, going to be excited, hopefully, about my new album because there's a lot of things that I haven't shared that are going to be a part of that album. So I hope that folks are excited for that. That's what I'm really excited for. And of course, touring. I love to be on the road. I get antsy if I'm not playing. And so I'm really excited for our tour next year. We've got a lot of dates that we're adding to the calendar and to the tour. I'm excited for new music mostly. I'm just excited for everyone to see. It's a thematic album, so it's themed. The theme is a secret, but it's themed, and it's just different from anything I've done. So I'm excited.
It sounds like 2026, you've got a lot in store and there's a lot coming, not only for you to share, but with fans to enjoy and listeners to, really get their feel of Caroline Owens and your music. And I'm excited for you because I think 2020, I think everybody's ready for 2025 to kind of be gone. There needs to be a song about that, right? But 2026, I think people are looking forward to a new year and to see what 2026 is going to bring. And so I'm excited to hear that you have a new album coming out and you're going on tour, and it's no telling what else is going to unfold over the year, but it sounds exciting nonetheless.
Well, thank you.
Well, I am so excited to have had the opportunity to talk to you and just hear all about what's going on with you and your career. And you're just amazing, and would love to have you back anytime to catch up. But thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you've been, and this is one of your down moments where you could be fishing or doing something quiet, but thank you for giving me some of your time.
I should be thanking you. You're one of the best interviewers that I've had. So thank you for taking your time.
Oh, you're very sweet. So just when we get off here, just send me your email. I mean, your mailing address. I'll put the check in the mail.
Oh, no. I'm being 100%.
I'm teasing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I take that as a very high compliment coming from you. And yeah, I love what I do. I love talking to artists, but I really, I think this podcast, I haven't done it a long time, but I love having people on because it gives the listeners an opportunity to really hear from the artist in a more personal, intimate way than you could, like if they're seeing you on social or at a show or something. I think it's meaningful. So, but thank you, because I know how I follow you on social and I know how busy you stay. And I'm just amazed that you have any free time at all, but I'm glad that you make the time for yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. You've been great.
Thank you so much. And if there's anything I can do to help promote you, let me know. I'm happy to do it.
Well, same for you. Anything you need.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. See you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
What a beautiful conversation with Caroline Owens. Her heart for the music, her commitment to the craft, and the stories she carries with her are exactly why the Bluegrass Story exists, to shine a light on the artists who keep this music alive. Be sure to check out her brand new single, Telluride, available now on all streaming platforms, and follow along with everything she's creating. Caroline is a remarkable talent with such a bright future ahead. Thank you for joining me today and for supporting these artists and this music we all love. Until next time, I'm Dawn Mack, and this has been The Bluegrass Story.
You've been listening to The Bluegrass Story, a production of BluegrassPlanetRadio.com. We hope you've enjoyed this insightful journey into the world of bluegrass music and its captivating stories. Remember, you can tune in to The Bluegrass Story anytime on demand on all major streaming platforms. Keep the bluegrass spirit alive, and thank you for joining us.